If you accept your imperfections, you accept those around you too. That is the law of mirroring. This is actually a move towards unity consciousness instead of feeling separate. You become compassionate. We're all going through a massive realization, many of us at least, that we are in fact the ones that we've been seeking. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. And we are not needing to seek a savior, and no external solution, we realize, comes close to the power that is within our very being. We've avoided this truth for so long, and it's led us to believe quite the opposite. In fact, this idea that our solutions to our own wounding and traumas come from outside of us is the complete untruth of the matter. The self-help industry doesn't help. They got louder with this persistence that perfection must be sought to a point of obvious desperation in my mind. But this is the opposite of what we really need now. What we need is self-acceptance. Healing comes from self-acceptance, acceptance of what is. Our lives operate the same way every part of nature works, through cycles and seasons. Our unique body and our mind that we've been given in this life operate on these timetables too. We're not exempt. Our human form is part of this cycle of life, the ebbs and flows of death and rebirth. There's a bigger picture here in place. We've been taught, though, to use force against this natural rhythm. We use force and inner fight and pressure to fix ourselves when we perceive ourselves as less than perfect. And this creates separation consciousness, a disharmony, a disunity. We end up on a roller coaster ride of dysregulation as we try to push against our wounding and resist looking at it. This looks like all sorts of labeled personality disorders and diseases. We experience constant stops and starts as we try to control the external world with our limited knowledge and understanding, and through a lens of fear. No wonder we find ourselves scattered, overwhelmed, and burnt out, melting down and giving up like a pattern that seems to be out of our control. The irony is that all of this attempting to fix ourselves is creating the very mess that we find ourselves in. We no longer trust. We've no relationship with ourselves. We are numb inside, our heart closed down. And so we go around and round in these cycles of suffering. This is denial of self. And this is using coping mechanisms that help us hide, block, distract, and run away from ourselves. What if we accepted that we're not perfect? What if we accepted that we are human for a time being? That we are working with a collective power. We can't live in this reality if we think that we have to be perfect in an imperfect world. Who says we're even supposed to be perfect while we're in the human form? Is that really a thing? No, it cannot be. It's a massive delusion of which many fight to defend their entire lives and leave exhausted at the end of their life cycle, often regretting the time they spent pursuing this perfection. If you accept your imperfections, you accept those around you too. That is the law of mirroring. This is actually a move towards unity consciousness instead of feeling separate. You become compassionate. You actually create the conditions to begin to heal and open your heart. Acceptance is not approval. Think of the child who gets angry at another for taking his toy. As the parent, you can hold loving space for this child to express their anger and validate and acknowledge their anger, to be released without shame or guilt, all whilst showing them a way that will create harmony in the playground next time. Did you know that holding loving space for yourself activates the parasympathetic nervous system? Rather than unconsciously reacting to fear, anger, sadness, guilt, etc., you consciously express feelings instead as pure loving awareness and compassion for yourself. Consciously. You do this without directing it as blame into the external world or onto someone else. This heals and releases the trapped, dense energy of past wounds and trauma. You become lighter. And the very trauma that has kept you on this roller coaster of avoiding yourself in the first place can be released. There is very little we have to do or put effort into to heal and become more of who we really are beyond the human condition. It's a remembering or realizing that you are pure loving awareness and you are simply experiencing being a human. We so easily forget this. The messages shouted at us from every corner of our lives show us this collective resistance to self-acceptance. We're blind to the fact that what we resist within ourselves will continue to persist until it is heard and seen. And again, there is nothing to do here except to accept it with loving awareness. Perhaps this collective resistance is beginning to shift. Do you sense that? As more of us remember our true essence and allow our internal guidance systems to come online. For me, I've found myself experiencing this life through the lens of trauma, for sure. I suspect we're all in very significant times in this regard. It seems that most of us are born at this time in the same boat. Perhaps the density of this era, the intensity of a Kali Yuga is what the mystics call it, is something to do with it. I certainly forget constantly as I move through the cyclical nature of my life as a human. I've been so very hard on myself with such ridiculously high standards. Have you? Now, I've been extreme in my desire to tackle my wounds as I walk this human experience. And this has led me in circles of immense pressure and burnout, and then relief, and round. The law of rhythm dictates that naturally my swings will become extreme if I am extreme in my thoughts, words, and actions. This is exhausting. This is the rhythm of my life. How do we, as a collective, change to support each other to be less extreme? To find the equilibrium we so desire. Despite the wounded, self-dictating patterns of constant suffering, we take baby steps in our individual lives. We realize we are the only ones who can do this. We stop giving away our power. We take one day at a time. You don't get stuck in tomorrow. And with great patience slow and steady. It is often at home, behind closed doors, where we can practice this self-loving acceptance that will change our inner and outer worlds. We practice inner child and shadow work. We learn to relax and accept the messiness that we perceive as the world around us. We let go and relax into this perceived chaos. Then, in this loving breath of fresh energy that we gift to ourselves, that protects us as we walk through the shadows of our wounds, we begin to love our own messiness, and we in turn love the collective messiness. We stop fixing and resisting what is, which removes the blinkers of separation consciousness. We become free of our own resistance to life, and then we find that life begins to flow through us. We stop trying to live life and we relax and begin to actually enjoy ourselves. We love ourselves deeply. We accept ourselves. So stop making your imperfections an excuse not to relax and play. Stop abandoning yourself via escaping into fixing yourself. You need you right now. I love you, and you are perfectly imperfect. I hope this has been helpful. Have a beautiful day.